Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week with us. Um, Today, we thought it would be good to talk about something that I think comes up a lot in both of our practices where people often will go through about they do all the things we ask them to do, they do the homework, they put in the work, they put in the time, and they see results. And then they will get to a point where things kind of start to level off, things start to plateau. And they maybe haven't totally reached their goals. They want to keep moving to that next level, but yet they feel stuck or plateaued. And so we wanted to go through and kind of talk about like why people hit plateaus and maybe give you some helpful tips to kind of navigate past that.
Yeah, and one of the big things is everybody does hit a plateau. It happens. It's part of the process. Because what that really means is you hitting a plateau means that you have pushed yourself to essentially kind of the limit of what you are currently allowing your body to handle. This is essentially your indicator and your wake up call of congrats, it's time to level up, so to speak. When you hit that plateau, everything that you have been doing has kind of, I don't mean it in a negative manner, but kind of maxed out. And so there needs to be some tweaks to be able to allow your body to then be able to continue to push itself further. So it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's actually potentially an indicator that you're doing everything correctly. But now, because you've hit that point, now we need to open things up a little bit to be able to allow that progression to continue.
Yeah, and I think something we talk about a lot is like not throwing the kitchen sink at everything, like when you're trying to do something. So, like, if your goal is to lose weight or it's to bench a certain amount of weight, like, we often will not tell you, like, okay, you should have this 87-step routine with that includes chiropractic and red light and massage and dietitians and sleeping. We're like, pick two or three things, like, just pick a few and then we'll tweak them. And the tweaking that we're talking about is kind of that place where you might start to hit that plateau because the body, it is very like adaptable to change. So it needs stimulus, it needs something to respond to. And if it gets used to the same thing that you're giving it over and over again, then we start to see that the result kind of levels out. It starts to be the same. And so we have to get creative oftentimes, both in how we stimulate our body, asking for a different output, but then also how we help the recovery of our body so that we're helping aid its recovery so that it can get back to baseline, bounce back faster so that you can also get that input that you're looking for faster and not feeling so plateaued.
And to put that into kind of like an exercise perspective, where kind of my head tends to go most of the time, when you're exercising and you're working out, as you do progress along the way, it's not as though the workouts ever get easier. The weights get heavier, the distance gets further, the speed gets faster. You improve. So that level of fatigue, that level of effort is still there. You are still pushing your body. But then eventually, when you hit kind of that plateau of feeling as though we can't push ourselves further, it is now the outside of that training session of everything going on that needs to adjust to be able to enable you to push more. Because now that we are lifting more, now that we're running further, now that we're running faster, the needs are different. The harder we push the body, the harder we now need to recover because we're breaking it down more. The more that we need to fuel the body because we're asking it to do more. So it's not that the training itself is causing any limitations or issues. We just need to make sure that we're setting the body up to be able to continue with those progressions.
Yeah, and I would say too, it's not like you magically are like, wow, you need to eat a ton more carbs, or you need to like,
Yes.
like you shouldn't all of a sudden like you've been eating a particular way, like you should go keto. Like that's not what we're saying. Like, it does not necessarily require like flipping things upside down. It is, again, as we've said in many of these calls, it's a lot of those micro tweaks and micro lifestyle changes. And this is something I see like when we adjust people a lot and why we don't ever adjust somebody the same two times in a row, even though it might feel similar because in your back, like, segment this to segment this feels kind of similar. But we're checking different things. I was doing this with a patient the other day. She's postpartum. She's just starting to do push-ups again. So she was doing them from her knees, and she had just progressed to being able to do push-ups like toes, knees off the ground. So she's engaging her core better. But she was getting all of this kind of like lower rib cage pain because she started using her abs in a different way than she had been using before. She didn't get the same adjustment that she got the 2 times before that, which were designed to help with other things. This adjustment was to help the recovery, to help her core engage better, to help her body bounce back faster, to help her body have more stability so she could do those push-ups, so she could be stronger. And so it's about adjusting and looking at different things in a different way. Doesn't mean you need to rebuild your whole wellness team every 3 months. It is working either with the right people who can help you make these tweaks, and or it is about making the tweaks on your own to kind of, like Jay said, keep up with that increased effort that you continue to put on your body.
And with that increased effort, it's what you touch on. It's that recovery piece that we need to continue to be mindful of, because a lot of times that is what you're likely going to notice starts to change before the plateau really kicks in. So nowadays, the vast majority of us have some form of fitness tracker, whether it be a watch, a Whoop, a ring, what have you. Something is measuring our recovery, our fitness, but very few of us actually look and utilize that information for what it's intended to be. And what that is to give you an insight on how is your body responding to the current stimulus that you're giving it. As that overall workload and stress on the body, and when I say stress, I don't mean just like kind of internal work stress and things, but physical stress as well. As all that workload and the stress accumulates in the body, you're going to notice differences in the recovery numbers, whether it be how deep is your sleep, whether it be how is your HRV, your resting heart rate. All of these things are going to give you feedback on how is your body actually recovering. And so if you notice the HRV, your heart rate variability starting to go down, if you notice your respiratory rate or your resting heart rate starting to increase, your body is struggling to fully recover to keep up with everything that you're giving it. And that's going to be the indicator of, okay, I've got a little wiggle room. If I continue to push myself and continue along the path that I currently am, I'm eventually going to hit a plateau. But if we catch those things early on, we know, okay, I need to make sure that I'm prioritizing my recovery. I need to make sure I'm hydrating properly. I need to make sure I'm going to bed. I need to make sure that I'm stretching and taking care of myself physically as optimally as I can to avoid those numbers continuing to get a little bit worse and worse to where we do hit that plateau.
And I think that it's like kind of what you were saying, and I think we talked about this before, but using those numbers can be really helpful, and it feels so counterintuitive to just be like, well, I'm going to be more conscious with my hydration, and somehow that's going to mean that I can keep progressing with the amount of weight that I'm lifting at the gym. Correct. It feels so backwards because in our brains, it feels as though, well, I should add 5 more pounds. I should add 5 more pounds. I should just do another rep. I should add a whole extra set. I should just add a whole extra day of weightlifting into my routine. Like, we are conditioned that we have to do more. And like, I think this is also true for eating. One of our shared clients I was talking to the other day, she was just like, I just didn't know that I wasn't eating enough. Like, she wants to lose weight. And she is just like, yeah, my whole life I've been told, like, just eat less, just eat less, just eat less. And I'm starving and I feel terrible and I'm shaking and I'm having such a hard time losing weight. And everything is like, I look at it and it sticks to me, even if it's a piece of celery. It's like, because your body is starving. And so we've been conditioned to go to the extreme of push harder, where actually we just focus a little bit more on those things to help aid those recovery numbers, like Jay was just saying. That's going to push you closer to those goals and help us not get so stuck in a plateau.
And I think you touched on one of the biggest parts is whether it be the conditioning, the messaging, and everything out there on social media and things like that, we're acting as though it has to be hard. In our heads, we feel as though if we're trying to achieve the goals that we're looking for, it has to be hard. If it's easy, something's wrong and we're not going to see the results. Truth be told, it doesn't have to be hard, which, again, as you mentioned, can feel backwards. But the hard part is believing that and allowing yourself to do those easy things, those seemingly easy things, and not running yourself into the ground, making you feel as though you're putting in the effort. That is the hard part. And it's all between the ears. It's being able to get over that mental barrier of feeling as though if you're not pushing yourself into the ground and just running yourself ragged, you're not going to see those results. It's the exact opposite. But in the end, a lot of times it's taking that step back to allow the body to be able to recalibrate, readjust, to be able to allow it to push harder. Not saying you don't push hard. I'm just saying that you need to be timely and strategic with when you are doing it.
And I would even say too, like think about in our household, like our top household saying, we have several of them, but it's choose your heart. And that doesn't necessarily mean like it has to feel hard, but also taking your vitamins on a consistent basis is hard. Like it is hard to remember that. It is hard to build a routine that allows you to do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to decide that is a hard thing to do. Like believing it is hard is a choice. Like choosing, you are choosing to believe that going to bed on time is hard. You're choosing to believe that putting your phone down is hard. Whereas if you just make the, again, this is where Jay is saying like this is like the harder piece of it. This is like that self-identity work of being like, no, I am deciding that I am the type of person that goes to bed on time every night. I'm deciding that I'm the type of person who does not scroll on my phone in bed, that I take my supplements, that I drink my water and my electrolytes throughout the day. Like you get to make those choices and decide that's who you are and that it is not hard. But in that same breath, it is also the hard thing to do. You know, it sometimes feels a lot easier to be like, well, I'm really good at lifting weights, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a fourth lifting day in because that feels easy. It feels safe to your nervous system. It feels safe to your body. Whereas being like, I'm actually going to hit a PR and I'm going to do it by lifting 3 days a week instead of four, and I'm going to sleep more. Your body's like, that, what? That does not mathematically add up. And so this is what I would say just from all of the work I do with the nervous system is you have to like build evidence for your brain that this is working. So you have to, as you prioritize your hydration, as you prioritize your rest, do any of these things to help recovery, looking at the metrics of your HRV and your resting heart rate, like, oh, look, I did this and I'm noticing this output. Oh, I'm doing this and I actually felt more flexible and I could have done an extra rep or increased my weight because I feel more recovered. You have to start writing down and observing and truly feeling these little wins as you go along the way, because otherwise you really will just get kind of stuck in the like mud of the plateau and you're gonna be like, well, I'm just stuck and nothing's ever going to change and get better, and that's not the point.
And it comes back to the mindset piece. You yourself, right there, even said little wins. Those are huge wins. If you're noticing the recovery piece and your HRV is recovering well, your resting heart rate is going down, that is massive. Because what that then means is that your body is prepared and capable to allow you to push, to break through a potential plateau, to be able to keep the progressions and everything going. So it seems relatively small. And that HRV, the heart rate, insert your favorite metric here, is improving because we drank water? Like it's that simple? Yes, it can be. Everybody's going to respond differently to different things depending upon what you need and the stimulus you're giving your body. But it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It doesn't have to be earth shattering. You don't need this random supplement of ashwagandha or whatever the heck to be able to go to bed a little bit better. You just need to have that, I was going to say willpower, but it's not always willpower, but like you just need to choose your hard and turn Netflix off after one episode and not hit, yes, I'm still watching, and go to bed. Like pick what you want to prioritize and then go with it. But if you do choose to watch that next episode, there's nothing wrong with that. But then you can't complain necessarily about the fact that you felt a little bit more fatigued. You couldn't push as hard at your workout the next morning. That's the trade off. Now, yes, there's going to be situations where work stipulations, your kids have practice and they have a game and you're out until midnight type of a thing. Life will happen. Not denying that. But it comes back to just control what you can control to make the most of all of those things. Another household saying, control what you can control.
Yeah. And I would even say, and I think we talked this about a few weeks ago, of, you know, if you're working on a goal, so let's say you want to lift more weight or you want to lose weight or whatever the heck your goal is, that you are tracking something that is actually relevant to that. So like should you track HRV? I don't know. What is your actual goal? Maybe you should track on a scale like how tired you feel on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe you should track how hungry you're feeling throughout the day. Like there are various metrics and things that you can track. And personally, this is why I like Whoop because it gives me a whole overview of my health and wellness, and I can go in different avenues, and I have a journal and it gives me a summary at the end of the month. But if that's not your is not something that appeals to you, that's fine. But I would say don't overwhelm yourself by being like, okay, I have to track HRV and resting heart rate and this and that. And now I need a journal and now I need that. You just need to pick one thing that is tracking your recovery and asking, is this metric of my recovery supporting where I feel plateaued or where I want to prevent to being plateaued? And that's what you need to focus on so that your lifestyle changes when life happens and you're at a sporting event past your bedtime and the plane had a layover and you got stuck in Atlanta, like whatever the situation is in like life, what are the things that you can control to be like, okay, well, if my number one goal right now is to prioritize my hydration, sleep is great, taking your supplements is great, brushing your teeth is great, like all these things are great. But if your goal right now is to prioritize hydration, you can ask yourself, all right, well, what can I do to meet this goal right now? What can I do to meet the one thing as opposed to having 87 things that you're trying to like hit every single day?
And after having just taken Paxton to the dentist this morning, I would recommend keeping brushing your teeth still in that category of like things to do. Like, yes, please do that. Don't get cavities. I know Halloween, so
Shower,
yeah, the standard stuff.
shower,
Absolutely.
brush your teeth, general hygiene. But I'm just saying,
Yeah. It is not allowing yourself to get overwhelmed by all the numbers because there can be a lot. Like we continue to use Whoop as an example because that's what we're most familiar with and that's what we utilize. But whether it be Oura Ring or using Apple Health, there's a lot of metrics that can pop up and it can be very easy to get overwhelmed with them. But it's figuring out which ones do you resonate with because all of those different devices, the Fitbits and everything, they're going to present it in a slightly different manner. There's no right or wrong. They're all trying to tell you a relatively similar story. Which one resonates best with you? And if you prefer just handwriting things down into a journal and just internally assessing how do you feel and going off of that, that can be perfect too. It's truly whatever you're going to resonate with and act upon. That's the biggest thing. And as you do that, you're going to see trends. You're going to notice different things. And it's that awareness piece that you're then going to be able to understand okay, if I truly am wanting to get better at X, Y, or Z, these are the things that I know I feel better with. These are the things that I know I feel worse with. What am I going to prioritize?
yeah. And I would say too, like if you're having trouble figuring this out, like this is why people should find a coach to work with, whether that's us or somebody else. Like have somebody in your corner that's helping you navigate. Okay, like what am I actually trying to achieve? Which one these numbers am I supposed to be watching? And then I mean I'm sure you can hear both of our voice, like we're a little bit under the weather. And so then when you're not feeling 100%, and it doesn't have to be because you're hitting a plateau lifting 100 pounds, it can be for a variety of reasons. You can say, all right, well, these are the things that I know that are helpful to me. And if you don't know that, having a coach can help navigate you, can help direct you to that, help you figure out a specific plan for you. It's not, I guess I should say, good coaching, in my opinion, is not, okay, here is all of the things that you should do. Good luck. It is, all right, well, what are the one or two things we should start with? And then tweak that to actually fit your life and needs. And so I just want to like encourage people that you don't want to do this alone, even having a device. Like a lot of our clients wear fitness trackers and we look at their data with them because it can be confusing. Like it is great data, but unless you know how to interpret it and unless you know how to apply that to your actual life, it can be challenging.
Yeah. So I would say, kind of moral of the story if the plateau hits, it's not a negative, it's not a bad thing. Use that as information. Have that be the kind of wake up call to do that self evaluation of, okay, where do I need to be making some tweaks and adjustments to be able to get my body into a state to where it can respond to that stimulus and continue to progress? It is not a bad thing. It can be a frustrating thing, but it is not a bad thing.
And just the reminder that you're not stuck there forever. Like you have
Correct.
tools and there are ways to continue to move past it. And you could be stuck there for a day or you could be stuck there for 6 months. A lot of it depends on what your action is based on when you realize, like, I think I'm hitting a plateau. And so there's a lot of reasons people get stuck in a plateau, but you don't have to be there forever.
On that, though, I will throw out too one thing that I just want to make sure is very clear because when you start exercising or you start a new routine, you are going to progress very rapidly. And the reason for that is neurological. Your body is getting familiar with those exercises, getting familiar with those movements to recruit the proper muscles, trigger the proper contractions to allow you and enable you to lift and move those respective weights or to bike or to row, whatever it is. Eventually, though, that neurological adaptation kind of stops because you've done it enough. Your body's like, okay, we know how to activate and utilize all the proper muscles to be able to do this. And your progress slows. That is not a plateau. That is just you entering the world of now I just got to build muscle and strength to be able to keep things going. You have hit that next level to where you've got the adaptations, your body is responding appropriately. Now you just need the patience and the overall consistency to take that next level and get that gradual progression. So that's where some of that initial frustration can really set in to where it's not a plateau, but you get very quick results in the beginning. The excitement is absolutely there. And then when it slows down, relatively speaking, like crawling, frustration arises. People think it's a plateau and they throw their hands up and they're like, I was doing so well. I haven't changed anything. What the heck just happened? Don't let that deter you. I really just wanted to emphasize that part.
I think that's a really good point. And I would also just add one last thing to that is making sure your goals are realistic. Like you are not, whether you're trying to lift more weight or you're trying to lose weight, you're not necessarily going to see a change every single day. Like people that weigh themselves every single day, you will see fluctuations. If there's some of it is going to be water weight. Like, what did you eat the day before? Did you have wings? They're salty. You might hold more water. Where, if you're a female, where are you in your cycle? Right? Like they're very dependent, and that does not mean that you're doing something wrong. I also don't know that it's realistic for you to say, well, every week I'm going to be able to lift 5 more pounds. Are you? I don't know. Like, I think that's where you just need to really have realistic expectations of yourself and be thinking more big picture rather than so micro and small lens before you're so quick to be like, well, this isn't working for me anymore.
Big picture, using that example right there. You want to increase 5 pounds every week. In the beginning, you may be able to do that because you're getting some of those neurological changes. But think big picture and long term. If you are increasing your biceps and curling 5 extra pounds every single week, at the end of the year, you are not going to be curling 250 pounds. I do not care who you are. You can say that.
Maybe
I would say you're not competing in the Arnold Classic. Even those guys, nobody is curling 250 pounds. Now, if Eddie Hall wants to walk in here and say, joke's on you, cool. Like, I'll eat those words. But that's where it just comes back to understand like the big picture of things, keep things realistic, and don't lose the motivation of yourself.
yeah. Awesome. So, anyways, I hope this was helpful. If any of you are struggling with a plateau, need some specific guidance yourself, please reach out to us.